Hey everybody, this is Larry the Cable Guy. Check this out. So I'm in my truck driving with my buddy, and we was heading up to the men's warehouse to fart in the suits, and he's listening to his phone, and I said, that sounds like Hermie Sadler. He said, it is Hermie Sadler. He's got a podcast called Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator. I said, Sadler and the Senator? He said, yeah, that's his good buddy, Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley. I said, well, what in the world? He didn't know this. I said, did you know that Hermie Sadler was voted one of the 50 best looking drivers in NASCAR? He said, I did not know that. I said, because it ain't true. You never know, though. He never takes off his helmet. But I know one thing. This show, Leaning Right, Turning Left, is good. So pull up a chair right there by your phone, get yourself a cold beer, and give a listen right here to this week's episode of Leaning Right, Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator. I'll tell you what, I bet Michael Waltrip's even listening. He's always wanted to do something like that. Oh, Sadler, got another one over on Waltrip. Get her done.
I'm Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley, and I'm leaning right.
And I'm Hermie Sadler, and I'm turning left. Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator is back, powered by Pace-O-Matic.
Hi, Hermie.
What's up, Senator?
Man, I am living the dream right here at the beautiful Sadler compound on beautiful Lake Gaston, just across the line of Virginia into North Carolina, where they can't touch us.
And we've got our third wheel back for another edition.
Edition? Shep Mouse, what's up, Burn Pile?
How y'all doing today?
Man, we're doing great.
I'm just back trying to make all the listeners and the sponsors happy.
If I was any better, I'd be you. You know what I mean?
Oh, that is true.
Mm-hmm. I noticed you pulled up in the Cadillac of pontoon boats here and moored your vessel here at the Sadler compound.
How do you spell that?
Vessel?
No, the first word.
Sadler? Moored?
Moored.
M-O-O-R-E-D.
Moored your vessel.
Moored your vessel, yes. We're here at the Sadler compound right here, overlooking the beautiful Lake Gaston, and we've got a great guest today, but we've got Shep Moss back. We're back with a vengeance in this podcast. We've got exciting new content that we're bringing to the fore. Everybody who has been listening and been so faithful. We've had so many listeners, and I've gotten a lot of emails and texts about the weeks we took off. They were looking for where we were, but I actually got, Hermie, a text from Shep Moss, who was approached by somebody in the racing industry who recognized Shep from this podcast. Did you hear that?
I heard the guy was concerned about the podcast, where it was, if it was coming back, when it was coming back, and Shep was signing autographs in the food line.
From one of the most famous motor racing teams in NASCAR Cup.
I spoke with him again today, as a matter of fact.
Did you? Did you tell him that we're coming back on the air now? That
I didn't, but I told him I'd let him know when we had a new episode.
Excellent. So what's new, Shep? I mean, what are you up to? What have you been up to for the past week?
Man, I am been busy getting our business closed, getting our building vacated.
We talked about that last week.
Talked about that for the Wonderful Feet program, and just trying to enjoy the last days of Dog Days of Summer that's going on now, and just really living my best life. I'm very fortunate.
Whew, that was boring.
We got a great show lined up. You know, Bill, you and I have talked about several times about trying to, intertwine some of our, we've been really one of the reasons why we took a couple of weeks off. We've been talking really nothing but politics for the last 6 or 8 months. So we wanted to get back and bring some different topics back to the show. One of them that Bill and I are both passionate about is certainly racing. Mm-hmm. And we're involved with Sadler Stanley Racing and our cars on the Smart Modified Tour, also the Wheeling NASCAR Tour. And our guest on the show today, Bill, not only drives for us some on the Smart Modified Tour, but is also one of not only a friend of mine and ours, but a partner in my karting operation that I do with Robin Bradshaw, Promier Racing Chassis, a distributor and team partner with that, and that is Jonathan Cash. And Jonathan, we appreciate you coming up and being on the show. Jonathan is from the Oxford, North Carolina area, P&P Speed Shop, and so we got a lot to talk about.
Big Tar Heel fan too.
Here we
Definitely
go.
not, Chip. Definitely not.
Big
But,
Tar Heel fan.
Now wait, now I've seen pictures of him about a week ago on Facebook. He's wearing the exact same hat and the exact same shirt as was on Facebook.
I don't think
And
I'm
you're not wearing
in
the-
about 6 months. Though.
You-
I
you're
think I'm
not-
good.
All right, well the hat's the same.
The hat's the same.
All right.
Yeah.
So and you're not wearing the company logo stuff. You know the Sadler Stanley Racing
You know-
stuff.
you
the
know
merch.
why?
I gave you some.
You didn't give me
The shirt.
the shirt.
Okay. Well, I'll work on that. That's my fault.
I ain't gotten a shirt yet either, John.
ain't got
Don't
one?
worry about it. Hell no.
No
I
kidding,
drove.
Really?
I think I drove 3 races before I got a shirt.
Well, I gave you like a garbage bag full of like sweatshirts, t-shirts, and stuff, and hats.
Sweatshirt be perfect today.
Look, we go up last year. Hermie and I drive up to Senator's office to tape a podcast, and we do a couple, and we're leaving, and he takes me out to his vehicle, opens his door to his Cadillac, I might add, a SUV,
the grocery getter.
and it's loaded with S&S swag. And he's the whole time, I'm going to get you one. I'm going to get you one. He opens it up. I don't think I got any to fit you, and he shuts the door back. So I still don't have one.
I don't have triple XL. I mean, the diet challenge is not working so far. I can tell from the both of you guys. I've got you guys beat. I could start eating cheeseburgers right now until the next
It's
2 weeks.
been a challenging.
And I'm telling you,
It's been
I'm
a
still gonna
challenging
win it.
summer. We've had a lot going on. It's very stressful. That's why I have a stress test in the morning, mind y'all.
Yeah, but you were supposed to be doing this for. I thought you had it this morning.
I had to postpone it so I could work a half a day, so I could come down and spend the afternoon with y'all and move my haircut. So the stress test is now at 8:30 in the morning. I can't imagine I'll have any stress after being around you all
You're
day.
stressing me out just talking about it.
And then my haircut's Friday. I'll be announcing the opening ceremonies of the Dixie Boys World Series that's taking place in South Hill this weekend. Teams from 12 states. So it's going to be a big time. I got a busy weekend coming.
So you need to have your hair at the perfect level.
And I'm playing in a golf tournament, mind you, and y'all both know how that's going to end. You playing this week?
So how does a haircut help you with any of that?
Right. Don't you wear a baseball cap at a baseball game?
No,
Kinda
not when I'm announcing.
Jonathan's doing here.
Are you not umpiring anymore?
No, I'm announcing now.
He used to be the ump. Come on, Blue.
It's in the book. Ask Elliot. It's in the book. He'll tell you.
Man, I used to umpire. I umpired.
There's
Vienna
no way
Little
in
League.
hell you umpire.
Absolutely. In fact, I quit playing baseball so I could umpire
With that?
because it was making money. I get $10 a game for Vienna Little League. My most famous story is I threw Joe Thosman out of a Vienna Little League baseball game. It's a very true story. It showed up in the Washington Post.
Can we talk to our guest now?
Sure, but you don't want to hear my interesting story about Joe Thosman?
Guys, let's hear your story about Joe Theismann.
So Joe Theismann had a son, and he'd won the Super Bowl. He had a son named Joey, played on the Orioles. And he was a big guy, a big little kid. And he could throw some heat, but his
big
heat,
little kid.
his heat
Well, you-
had
well,
no
you-
control.
Just so I understand.
What age group
Are you
is
behind the group? Are you behind the plate?
12 and under. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I got the.
How do you ring somebody up?
What do you mean? How you throw them out?
I mean, are you cranking the weed eat on them? Are you
mean,
doing the karate chop? I mean, how you calling strike three?
Mine's right hand up here. Right there. Make the fist.
Even for a call out? For call strike three?
He looked like he's done that before, doesn't he, John? He's got a lot of right wrist in that strike
That's
call right there.
Pornhub left the Commonwealth.
When you did you ring them up?
I had a couple different moves depending on whether they was swinging, whether it was down the gut, whether it was on the corner a little bit. I had a couple different moves.
Like what? Let's see.
Well, you crank the weed eat on them. You
What does that look like?
Oh, that's
You're pulling the cord.
yeah. You're pulling the cord.
Okay. all right.
absolutely.
What's another one? If I'm swinging a miss.
If you're swinging and it's just strike three, you just signal strike three. You don't say anything. You don't do anything. Everybody knows it's strike three. Okay. So if it's a close pitch that you're going to give the pitcher, that's the one you have to sell the most. So that one you may get a little more animated on.
All right. So how would you be more animated then? I mean, do you do like a Michael Jackson moonwalk kind of?
Well,
No, would you say that's on the corner or
No. You don't say anything.
You wouldn't
Just
point
all
where
the
it was?
strike. No.
Floyd
hell
Coley
no.
used to talk all the time.
Oh, Floyd Coley said, yeah, down the middle. No, you don't.
So what would you do on a close one?
Oh,
Maybe chest high, a little bit on the inside.
well, that's a ball.
That's
no,
not
still
strike.
inside. Just
You just said he told us if
Right
you go
the
something, you're going to give the pitcher.
Yeah, but you
now,
can't
said
give
you're
the
giving
pitcher
away
to
the
that.
secrets. Now you're talking about when you're going to give the pitcher a different zone.
Look,
Well,
high and inside is not a pitch that you get.
No. Right at the boobies, right at the armpit level. I mean, right in
And
there
inside?
on the line.
No, that's a ball every time.
Inside on the line of the plate.
The only time
Left inside of the plate.
only time a good and well-trained umpire.
like yourself.
Yes, I've been to 2 pro
You know
schools.
what?
Thank you. I've been to 2 pro schools. Thank you.
I've been to Williamsport. Umpired Williamsport games. How about that?
In the softball league, that don't count.
No.
Those
Little League.
men's pickup
Little League
thing.
World Series.
So if you're going to give the pitcher a pitch, it's got to be a hittable pitch. High and inside is not a hittable
No.
pitch.
Let's just say
You would
it's
never
right. It's
call
right
that
at
a
the
strike.
top of the strike zone.
Why
on the corner
as
of the
a
plate.
trained umpire that's been to all these schools, why are you changing your strike zone in the middle of the game?
Well, it's not in the middle of the game. You stay consistent with it, okay?
But you don't have to give the pitcher
And at
something if you're not
look,
changing.
at a 12-year-old,
Johnny Cash, tell him, man.
bullshit. At a 12-year, that's $25. At a 12-year-old level, if you don't call hittable pitches strikes, you will be there all night long. And good coaches know that you're going to have to call some pitches.
So how did you
in
let
favor.
them know? You couldn't pull the weed eater.
Oh, I
You
already
ain't
pulled
doing
the
the
weed
fist
eater.
pump.
No.
What's your big?
I'm not doing your
You're not doing
right hand
the
wrist.
Pornhub out. You're not jerking the gherkin.
And I'm not doing that.
So what's your move? What's your signature move?
I mean, I really got to stand up and do it?
Yeah, you gotta see it.
Absolutely.
Oh, hell. Are you
we'll
going to do yours?
We'll describe it.
Well, you do yours.
Sure.
You're going to do yours.
Sure.
He just said his.
Yeah, I did this.
Oh, that was...
And I'm pointing. Yep.
I got thrown off by
He's still not doing his stand-up.
Listening to him.
you pulled a weed eater, and then you said if it's a pitch you got to sell, you got to get a little more demonstrative.
Yeah. What's
Number
that?
one, why do you have to?
Listen.
A pitch you have to sell is not a strike, is it?
Very good point and a great question.
It may not be a ruled strike, but if it's a hittable pitch and if you have to move the game along, okay.
Hey, move.
You're throwing the game. You're making
You
balls
jacking up the people in the concession stand. They're trying to sell hot dogs. You trying to get out of there.
Right. I gotta
I
go.
invest in the fundraiser.
You getting paid the same amount whether the game was an hour and 15 minutes or 2 hours. So you go calling little Johnny out.
You damn right. He
What
better be swinging today. Little Johnny better be swinging today.
Party time's got a gig at 6:30. Yeah. Now come on. Let's see it. Come on.
What? So did you use the big balloon chest protector?
Well, I did.
I mean,
and-
I'm sure you would.
And then I went to the underguard.
Because your age,
Yeah. It was the
at
heart.
your age, that was probably all you had.
Called the heart back in the 70s and 80s, yes. And then I went to underguard. But the problem was is when I you could use that big
Because that's what Floricola used.
you could use the big front thing to block something when it tipped off the catcher's off his mask or off his glove. But man, when you were just sitting there with your umpire shirt and something underneath with the guard underneath, you could take one right in the throat.
Johnny,
that
we're all going to talk about racing in a few minutes.
Yeah, I'm good with the baseball.
So tell us, what is your magic move on a ball
That you
is not a strike, but
and
you
send
got to
Johnny
go?
back to his daddy.
I got
that's
pointed.
pissed off. He got rung up 3 times in one game.
I got appointment.
I got to go. Hey, and none of them were strikes.
Because the umpire had a gig
Come
to
on.
get to.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
I got to go to Memory Makers and do the last half hour before
So,
shit out.
one right down the middle, you said you pulled a weed eater.
I'd pull the weedy.
On strike 3.
All right. So when you go call
Swing and
little
a
Johnny
miss.
out on
The
a
right hand that I use.
obvious ball
Above the head. Right? You make the fist.
No. On a call that you've got to sell. All right, look.
which you shouldn't be making. But go ahead.
I got to sell because it flew over the kid's fucking head. But I got to go. Come on, man.
That's not what I said.
It was close.
All right.
Stand up, show us. We'll describe
I gotta
it.
show you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what
I'll
we're
show
asking. All right, here we go, ladies and
One
gentlemen. I'm going to try
One
to do
right
the
down the
play-by-play.
middle is just a.
Yeah, let's do the down the middle.
So depends on the
You
size
use
of
the front
batter.
guard? You use the-
I use under
Underguard.
So depending on the size of the batter, I'd either do a box stand, but then I got old and fat. My belly would hang over, so I had to go to
Get a
the
little
sizzle
closer to the mic there.
I had to go to the sizzle stand. See this? Did you use it?
One knee
No, you
forward,
couldn't do-
one knee back.
Yeah, I got both hands on my knee.
No, I was younger when I did this. I was the age of 13
So if
to
it's
18.
one right down the pipe, I might just pull the rope on them.
Okay.
Right there.
For strike three.
For strike
How about
3.
1 and 2? You just throw the hand up?
Oh, yeah. I just point to the side. Kind of casual. It's one down the pipe.
You don't-
strike. And
Okay.
I just point.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. If it was a ball, I just say ball. I don't point. I don't tell them where it's at.
Now, how'd you
Right.
say ball? Did you go ball?
Ball.
Really? Just ball?
Just ball.
So a strike.
Ball?
You just
Yeah. All right. Down the middle, pop. Strike. And I'd point.
All right. So he stands up
If
from a
I'm
scissor
using
kick.
The box stance,
All right.
I would say strike, and I'd stand up and kind of do like a time.
That was my big thing.
Okay.
Make the grip.
Yeah, but you're doing
Right hand up there. Yeah. I'm trying to entertain the crowd.
multiple gyrations.
I mean, your hand.
I'm trying to get the coach to ask me out after the game with that move, you know?
I mean, you strike like a jackrabbit. Right? Okay.
All right, here's the ball that you want to be a strike because you got to go.
All right.
The one you got to
So it
sell.
comes in and it's close.
Now you gone to the scissors late in your
Scissor.
career.
Yeah, because my belly. I had to go to the scissors because this was just so much easier.
Okay.
Right.
And so if it came in, I would give them like, 3.
All right. So for the listener who can't see this on TV, he would slowly get out of his scissor kick. Looks like he's
Oh, it's slow.
But was that one for right down the middle? 3?
That one will be more like a down the middle.
all right. Well, what we're looking for is that
We're
got
Trying
to
to get
sell.
back to the one, the mystery strike.
Yeah. Yeah.
The invisible pitch that you're pissed off because Johnny's daddy bought a car from Hardy Ford and you're going to ring him up on a ball. That one. That's the one we're trying to figure out, right?
For 10 minutes, we're trying to get this one out.
You know what I would tell the daddy? It sounded like a strike. It sounded like a strike.
Let's see this. Let's see. We don't want to pop any of your stitches, but let's
So
see.
one
let's
that
see
everybody in the stands knows that
Yeah.
Johnny just didn't swing. The ball was right down the middle, waist high fastball to catch. You pull the
Yeah,
rope.
sometimes I would go this way. I'd kick.
Which
my
you-
right
you're-
hand.
so you're like
Little
throwing an overhand
little
punch.
small,
just a little, just a little.
So he pulls out and makes a punch to the right
Yeah.
without changing position. All right. So he
Okay.
takes his
And
right hand.
One right down the middle. I'd go, hey,
Ooh, just hit
3.
himself.
Sometimes I just throw my hand
All right.
up.
Now
Okay.
we're getting to the strike that wasn't a strike. All right. But I mean, I have never wanted an ending so bad in my life to see what happens here than right now.
All right, now here's the pitch that sounded like.
Best
Here's
podcast
the
ever.
pitch when you're not saying it, but thinking to yourself, you just wait, Johnny.
I'm gonna be here all damn day.
You fitting to go back to the bitch.
There's not many more scissor kicks I can give in this game. I got to get out of here. My belly.
Please swing.
So we're looking for the
Yeah,
one
that's close.
that is clearly not a strike, but you're going to ring this little kid up
Yeah.
for a personal reason. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, well, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to turn to the side with this hand.
And you're going to find dad. You're going to find dad over
Pointed
there with his chap against
Yeah,
his
Johnny's dad.
Look at Dad, I'm going, look at that. He's that.
He's got the middle finger out, and then
yeah.
he pulls it under.
Well, let's see your.
And I saw a kick.
Well, let's see your strike 3.
Now, Matt, one more question, then we get to your bill. Why would you go the other direction on a left-handed batter?
Well, if it's a left-handed batter, you always signal strike. You always signal strikes, regardless right or left hand, with your right hand.
Right.
A strike.
Strike is the right hand.
But so the crowd could see it, you would point to your left with your right hand. Okay.
On a third
How
strike?
many times were you
any
escorted
strike.
out of the baseball
The
field?
third on a left-handed, would you and didn't point here? Or
It just depends on the pitch. It depends
I'm really
on
worried about who's getting pointed to.
It depends
Because that
on
can really cause a problem.
you're not
Better
supposed to
go
use
call
your finger like that.
Johnny.
It could very well be.
You're not supposed to use your finger like that.
Hey, look, it depends on the pitch, the game situation. It depends on a lot how you would call strike.
But so
3.
you're willing to admit on the podcast that as an umpire, the score of the game and who's batting would.
I did not say that.
Okay.
I did not say that.
Or if you're running a little late and you're worried about daylight, or you got something to do.
And I didn't say that either.
Well, it sounded like it.
Look. You know what I like about you, Billy?
Nothing.
Not a damn
That's right.
thing.
That's right.
Look.
But you are willing to admit that you had a preconceived notion of when you might call a strike on a guy.
No,
Before
look,
the pitch.
the pitch has got to be hittable. If it's hittable and you're calling 8-year-old kids, you've got to call some hittable pitches. If you're waiting for a 17 by 17 inch strike It's walk, 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 walk. The coaches that are good coaches that have been around the block for a while, they know you're not going to have any problem with
Don't you have a slaughter rule where you just like, if they're just scoring all these runs, you're going to get out early anyway?
Who wants to stand out there for an hour and an inning with no hits? It's part of the game. Don't act like y'all don't know this isn't part of the game.
Damn, baseball game is rigged as a
bad
mother.
news bears, Buttermaker.
Don't act like y'all don't know this.
Bail bonds. Chico's bail bonds is not getting their sponsorship money if they're done in an hour.
Even on TV, even with K-Zone, the umpire will ring them up on occasion on a questionable pitch.
Have you ever been like pitchforks and torches like chased out of a baseball stadium?
I never have. I never have, and I tell you why.
Was it close? Was there a close moment?
That was my next question.
I tell you
Thanks,
why.
Jonathan.
And I've been fortunate.
We're going to get to you, I swear to God.
I've been fortunate enough to do Little League, through the World Series, all the way through some college ball. And Elliot will know this from travel ball. At that level, if the coaches and even the players and the parents, if they see you hustling, they see you're in position, they know you're human, they know you're going to miss a call or miss a pitch, they will respect you. It's a difference in liking and respecting. I probably wasn't well liked at some ballparks or by some coaches.
Or parents.
But I do think I was always respected. I was on time. My uniform was state trooper clean and pressed. I was well versed in the rules. And okay, did I get every call right? No. Did I fall down and call one from left field out at first when I couldn't see it? No, I didn't do that either. So, I did that 35 years. I can walk on the field anywhere today in the state of Virginia and umpire.
Can you imagine that the mom and dad are in the stadium, they see Shep show up in his nicely pressed umpire shirt, and they go, we're going to be done in 30 minutes here. He's got things to do.
I'm just trying to picture him like running down the first baseline to get to a call.
Ooh. So was it one umpire, or did you have a crew of two?
Most of the time it was two. Tournament time we had three.
Okay. One in the outfield down the line.
Did you prefer to be behind the plate or in the outfield, infield?
Really, probably behind
I mean, you could speed the game up more behind the plate, right?
Well, behind the plate's really easier than the bases because you're really focused just kind of
I like
on
the bases
plate.
better. I like the bases.
The bases was more running, more moving. I probably was a better plate umpire in managing the dugouts and handling the problems.
His belly thought so.
I was better umpire doing that than I was on the base.
Okay. So getting back to my story. So this is the year after the Redskins lost to the Raiders when I was an umpire for Vienna Little League. Loved it. $10 a game. I do 3 to 4 games a day on Saturdays. Make $40. I thought I was rich. Joey Theismann played for the Orioles. Great coach, great team. They're always in contention. We're up on the top field, Jonas Park. We're up on the top field. Joe Theismann comes in. He had a gold like Mark V, one of those Lincolns. Parked it up kind of close up top. He comes in. I'm behind the plate. Joey's pitching. Joey's wild. Joey has. I mean, kids were scared when they got up into the.
None of them sounded like strikes.
You would have probably found some of those under your scenario strikes. These were head burners. They were brushbacks.
The Redskins.
I lost money in the Super Bowl. But it was chin music. I mean, he was throwing it. He was throwing the hardest he could, and he was very frustrated. It was a hot day. His face was red. Theismann, the dad, Joe Theismann, the football player, parks himself, and of course, he's still the Redskin quarterback. He parks himself behind the plate, and the netting and the backstop. He was in the backstop.
Wait a minute. You're telling me that you ejected a person that wasn't even a coach? Is that what you're getting to?
So here goes my story. So he sat behind me, and I mean, these are grazing the eyebrows of these kids. I mean, they're so high. I go, ball. And, I want him to throw strikes too. Ball. He's walking, loads him up. I think he walks one in. And I start hearing, come on up. That was a strike. Come on. Starts a little low, starts to build a crescendo. And I mean, these are not even close to strikes, not even Shep Moss strikes. Call another ball. And he starts screaming at me. And I stop the game and I say, sir, and I knew who it was. And I said, you're going to have to go down past first base down the line there. You can stand at the fence past right there. We used to have like the warm up, the bullpen, the area where the kids would warm up to get ready on deck. So I said, you're going to go down there. Stop the game. He's like, wait, he starts scrapping. And he said a swear word. Now I know he's Joe Theismann. He said the F-bomb, what I remember. And I didn't throw him out at that time because, bad language in a baseball park is not tolerated. Back then it would in the 80s. So I move him. He finally, his coach tells him, get down there. He goes around past the dugout, which was a center block dugout. And he leans in and he's still throwing balls. And I'm calling balls. And he says another swear word, yelling at me. And his kid is just flustered. And I stopped the game and I said, you're out. You're out here. Throw it out. And the parents on the other team start clapping. I mean, they must have been Raiders fans. They start clapping. He won't leave.
Cowboy fans.
Yeah. He won't leave. And I said, sir, you are ejected from this game. And you're not only ejected from this game, you're ejected from the park, Jonas Park. And so I stopped the game, walked outside the gate, and made him go to his car. His car was about 3 cars down from the top. It was a big slopey hill. There was a concession stand in the middle, right where the middle field are, 3 fields.
So is this a league?
Yeah, Vienna Little League. Famous
question.
Vienna Little League.
Question.
Yes.
Do you realize that you only control as an umpire inside the fence?
Correct. However, the Vienna Little League,
is that in the book?
When it came to conduct, they gave us full right. So I said, you've got to leave and you're ejected out of the park. We could eject them out of the park. And I've never done that before. But this is a high-end Northern Virginia field, not one that you might have worked with. He gets in his gold Mark V. He's pissed. He backs up. He locks his bumper. You know how there's big bumpers on the Mark Vs in the 1980s? Kind of locks it into a van that's kind of parked there. Locks it. Moves forward again.
Oh, your fault.
Backs up. Oh, yeah, because I pissed him off. Backs up.
Is this Joe Theismann we're talking about?
Yeah, Joe Theismann. And he starts down the hill. I'm chasing after him in my full gear,
And you're 13?
And I'm trying to stop them.
How old are you?
Because he wrecked the car. I drove there, so I was sick. Well, in 1983, I guess. When did we lose to the Raiders? When the Redskins lost to the Raiders?
I don't know.
It was the year after. Well, okay. So that's 82, 83. I'm in high school. And I chased him down there and had him stopped. Well, there was a guy there named Tony Kornheiser or somebody who was a reporter.
From ESPN?
Might have been.
Pardon the interruption?
I think that's him, or one of the others, not Will Bond, but there was another one. And he was at the game, and he wrote about it. And my dad comes in, and I had not read the sports page, and said, what the hell did you do this weekend? But I held the notoriety and fame of kicking out the Super Bowl champ and MVP, Joe
So
Theismann.
what we would do as umpires, if we were having a problem with a spectator, and if we could determine which team they were with, and most of the time you can, we would casually go by the head coach of that team and say, hey, Hermie, tough game, I get it, but you're going to have to do something with Stanley back here. He's causing a problem. I'm going to give you opportunity to handle it, and if you can't, then I'm going to handle it. But the way we would handle it is go to somebody with the league and say, Cash, I'm going to stop this game, and both teams are going in the dugout until he's out of the park. And then I would let the league handle it. Sometimes the leagues would have to call the police because it's public property. As you know, the leagues don't control the property. So the town would have to send a police officer over.
Vienna Little League owned the whole property.
Oh, well, that's a little different situation than what I was in.
Jonas Field.
Because legally, I think you would agree, the umpire doesn't control the park. You can't make me leave the park.
Well, there was one time in Nottoway Park,
can.
which was across from where I lived, and I was doing a Little League game. We had one Little League field, and we had a regular sized baseball field and a softball field up above. And the parents were so unruly that I moved them. I was able to move them off the bleachers, the bleachers right into the backstop. And then I moved them up to the softball field above. And the problem was that now they were over top of me, and they were
made it even worse.
But I could not remove them from the park.
One more baseball question, then we got to get to our guest John over here because he drove like 6 hours to get here, and he's like, "What the hell,
I'm
man?"
so effing glad I came.
You're on the bases.
Yeah.
You get a 50-50 call. Let's say a ball is hit the shortstop. He dives. He throws the ball from first base to first base from his knees, and it's a 50-50 call. How you calling it?
Tie goes the runner. I mean, they arrive at the same time.
It's a 50-50 call.
What is your definition of a 50-50
You're saying
call?
because he made
At the
such
same
a
time, yeah.
he made such a
You would
cow-ricking
not
play,
reward-
you don't want
On a
to.
50-50 call, you would not reward the defender for making that
If
kind
I can't
of play.
make the determination of clear out, then I'm going to give it to the runner.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I used to do. I miss it, but then
Shep, the level of
I'm gonna call
corruption, the level of corruption
I'm calling bull.
that
I'm gonna get
that
you
you're
a
bringing to
picture.
the forefront of your umpiring days
On
is
a
really
50-50
disturbing. There's no saying it's a 50-50 call. He's out or he's
That
safe.
goes all the way through to pros, what I just said. Every time.
that if it's a good-looking play, you give it to the guy that made the good-looking
Okay.
play rather to
They
the
hit
runner.
a dribbler to shortstop.
I didn't know there would
Here
be a
we go.
quiz. Yeah, back on the porn stuff.
And the shortstop runs up and catches it and makes a horrible throw. And the first baseman bobbles it and juggles it and drops it. Well, not even drop it because then he
Safe.
would be safe.
Safe.
You're missing my point. Good umpires on 50-50 calls, call the pros. They will always reward effort on a 50. And it's got to be 50-50. I'm not talking about 52-48. 50-50, they're going to reward effort. If that batter is hustling down the line and he goes down and slides head first at first base and it's a 50-50 call, every time the runner will be safe.
Hermie,
every
I want your brother Elliot to tell me who we can gather up and file a class action lawsuit because there are a bunch of kids that did not get scholarships
damn
in
right.
baseball because of this jack. 50-50 call.
I'm just telling you. Okay.
If you can't make the call, you call it safe. I mean, if it's 50-50, tie goes the runner. I mean, it's
There's no tie.
and well,
If you sell it, it's
Between
not a
that
tie.
is a 50. What's a 50 tie?
then it's a 52-48.
In my world, 50-50 is a tie.
If you sell it, they don't even come out and ask.
Jonathan Cash, welcome to the show, everybody. That was hilarious, by the way. I think we've got more to talk
I never
about.
saw your call. Huh? I never saw your strike through. Did
He
you?
wants to see how you ring
right down
somebody up.
Oh, I believe that.
Like a big one?
I said ring them up. You're ringing it off.
So, all right, I'll do it. So, like something sliding into home plate, right?
How
base.
Let's say home base. Yeah.
on base. He's real experienced. Are you wearing your mask?
No,
Or is
you
it
got
off?
You got it off.
All right, which hand is it in?
Left.
Why is it in your left hand?
Because you make the calls with the right.
I'm just checking you.
See?
He's right.
So I'd punch him out, like, go, like that. I'd lean down and punch down him. Like,
Okay.
Not pulling the.
Not cranking
Let me ask you
cranking the leaf blower.
Stand up, stay up there. Stay up there. If it's a slide play,
Yeah.
then call it.
Safer.
Out.
50-50?
Yeah. If it's a slide play, are you going to ask the defender to show you the ball first?
Well, you should be able to see it. If not, you ask him to flip.
So how many times have you called out and the dust settled and the ball was on the ground or laying at the backstop because the catcher missed it and you called it too quick?
Never, not like you, but there have been times where the ball was dropped or they did not have control, and you might have punched him out and then changed your mind.
So you called it too quick.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes,
Thank
Lord
you.
Umpire.
Yes. You called
Have
it
you never
too
done
quick.
that?
Yes, and you learn from it. So now on a slide play, now the coaches know if I say, show me the ball, they know the call is going to be an out.
50-50.
They know
But see, in umpiring, what I learned, and especially in school, and being taught by Frank Rizzo, who was the director of umpiring for the United States, Little League.
Yeah.
And got to umpire with him. What he always said was, make sure your call is fast because your instinct is usually right. You can change that, but if you give yourself enough time, you're going to second guess.
That's why I said only on a slide play. If he's safe, if you're going to call him safe, you immediately call it safe because it doesn't matter if they have the ball or not, right? Okay. But if you're going to call an out on a slide play, you should always say, show me the ball. And then that way you don't look like an idiot because the ball is rolling across the field.
If anybody has a celebrity softball game and they want me and Shep to friggin' be the clown umps,
that would be awesome.
that would be great. Let's see if we can do that.
Hi, folks. This is Hermie Sadler. Thanks for listening to our all-new podcast,
Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator. I hope you are enjoying the show as much as Senator Stanley and I enjoy bringing it to you. Whether you're a family traveling together or a truck driver hauling freight up and down the highway, I hope you will take the time to visit one of our Sadler Travel Plaza locations in Virginia and North Carolina. Sadler Travel Plaza locations are licensed dealer locations for Pilot Travel Centers, and we also carry Shell Motiva petroleum products for our four-wheel friends. We pride ourselves on providing one-stop shopping for service, food, and entertainment. Our food options include Five Guys Burgers and Fries, Quiznos, Dairy Queen, Hermie Sadler's Faux Show Bar and Grill, Victory Lane Restaurant, Hunt Brothers Pizza, Dunkin' Donuts, and much, much more. Our locations include Sadler Travel Plaza in South Hill, located off I-85 at exit 12. The Sadler Travel Plaza of Emporia, which is conveniently located on exit 11B off I-95, and Sadler Travel Plaza on Highway 58 in Suffolk. We also have our North Carolina location, Sadler Travel Plaza in Dunn, North Carolina. That's exit 75 off I-95. We appreciate all of our customers, and Bill and I appreciate you listening to Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator, powered by Pace-O-Matic.
Hey, this is Bill Stanley, Hermie Sadler's sidekick on this podcast. When I'm not in Richmond at the Capitol or doing this podcast, my real job for the past 27 years is as a trial attorney with the Stanley Law Group. Here at the Stanley Law Group, we represent our clients in every courthouse in the Commonwealth. No problem is too small for us to solve. No case is too big for us to win. Whether it's criminal charges, traffic offenses, civil disputes, litigation matters of any sort, we handle it all. We make sure that we treat every client like family because they are to us. Your problem is our problem. Your success is our success because we hate to lose more than we love to win. And believe me, we win a lot. Don't believe me? Go ask Hermie. I'm his favorite lawyer, and he hates lawyers. So give us a call at 540-721-6028 and let us help you. Or visit our website at www.vastanleylawgroup.com. That's www.vastanleylawgroup.com. At the Stanley Law Group, we'll make sure we're the lawyers that you swear by and not at. All right, once again, Jonathan Cash, when did you show up? How long have you been here,
6
man?
hours ago.
All right, Hermie, me and the ump are going to take a break. It's all you, bud.
Go.
No, I'm
35 minutes.
That was fun.
I wanted to get Jonathan Cash on. Obviously, as I said in the intro, driving for Sadler Stanley Racing and a big part of our karting operation with Promier Racing Chassis. But Jonathan, a lot of people see what you do at the go-kart track and also the few races you've done with us at Sadler Stanley Racing. Some of our listeners may not, however, know that you've been racing for a long time in a lot of different divisions. So take a couple minutes as you can and tell me and the listeners here a little bit about your racing journey.
Well, I started when I was 4, racing go-karts.
Where at?
In Oxford. It was called Cornwall.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Cornwall. Mm-hmm. But I started racing there. My uncle owned the track, so that's kind of how we got into it. So I was 4. I raced go-karts till I was about 18 or 19 years old. Then went doing some stock car stuff.
Now, where'd you run the stock cars at?
South Boston and Orange County mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Once we moved over to late model stock, we actually, hit some different places: Southern National, Caraway, Martinsville, Ace, those type of places. Then decided that I got an opportunity from Chip Lofton out at Strutmasters. I drove a race car for him for a year, and then we decided we were going to try to go bigger. So we moved up and actually made a deal with back this time it was JTG Wood Brothers was together, Tad Schechter. So I'd done some Bush East stuff for them. The sponsorships just didn't work out, so I come back home. Went back to running late models, and I kind of figured I wanted to do something in racing at that time, and I was really kind of upset that I didn't make it as a driver. So that's kind of why I came back home, knowing what I know now. I might would have stayed and tried to do something different, but came back home, decided that I wanted to do something in racing, And at this time, P&P Speed Shop became available.
Yeah, what year is what?
This is in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent about from 2000.
Now, P&P Speed Shop, just people, a lot of karting people listen to this. That's Jeffrey and Timmy Perry.
It was, and they really helped my karting career.
Mm-hmm. How's that?
I guess I'm backtracking here a little bit, but so my parents really didn't have a lot of money to race, and everybody knows it takes money to race.
Sure.
And so I went to work for them, and they gave me an opportunity to drive for them while I worked for them, and it just enabled me to go to do bigger things. And we became very successful at the time with Jeffrey working on the go-karts and me driving. He was getting to the point that he just didn't want to drive anymore, and so it worked out really good. And really, honestly, that's really what made me get noticed to be able to go on a stock car. Like I said, my parents couldn't buy one. We actually had a guy who came to us and was like, "Hey, I've got a car. Would you like to drive a few races?" And I'd have never had that if it not been for the success I had with Jeffrey. So, but yeah, and like I said, we moved on, and we done some Busch East stuff. We ran some Hooters stuff, and like I said, the sponsorship at the time didn't work out for me to go bigger. And like I said, it really disappointed me, and I was kind of upset about it. So when I came back home, I just figured out what I'm gonna do in racing. So that's when P&P became available. Jeffrey called me and said, "Hey, I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm burnt out. Would you like to purchase it?" And so that's what I did. And it was, for a couple of years, it was very hard. Like it was a struggle getting.
Yeah, when you first went into P&P, just so people know, I mean, they not only were they racing, but that was a very successful engine building business. How did you just go in and take over a business? I mean, how and when did you get experience with building engines?
Well, when I worked for him, before I'd done the stock car thing, I learned a little then. And when Jeffrey called me, he said, "Hey, I will finish teaching you the rest of what to do." And the biggest obstacle was not really trying to figure out how to make horsepower. It was trying to get people to believe in you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's and I see it now with new people trying to come in, and they say, "Hey, I'm gonna go do this with Jonathan." He's been in it now for 13 years versus this guy for 2 years. So so Jeffrey, he taught me, and he still helped me for a year and a half, 2 years. He really just helped me. I mean, anything I needed, he'd call and come and do it. So it just took a lot of time to build that trust, in the racers. And ultimately, after 4 or 5 years, we won some big races, and had other customers. And that's really the biggest thing, having other customers win big races, because they say, "Hey, Jonathan can do it for other people, just not himself." So that's kind of where it really took off at.
Well, I want to get back and talk about the karting thing in a minute, but also once last year, a couple of times this year, you've had the opportunity to hop in and drive a modified for Senator Stanley and Sadler Stanley Racing. Those cars are housed and maintained by Phil Stefanelli at PSR Products. So prior to you jumping into modified a little bit last year, did you have any experience with those cars at all?
I didn't, and that was the first time I'd ever been in one. The day we went and tested, that's absolutely the first time we sat in anything like that. The good thing about it, Phil always brings a good car to the track, so it really helps you to, go fast right off the bat. And our first race last year was at Hickory, and I'd never raced a modified, and I'd never been to Hickory, so it was.
And just so people know, we went and tested at Orange County, which was a place that you have a lot of experience and laps, and that is invaluable, not only in any kind of racing, but especially when you're driving a car that you've never driven before. Having racetrack familiarity is important, but I guess Mother Nature got in the middle of us running the Orange County race last year, so we went to Hickory, and I still thought, all things considered, didn't get the result, but as far as qualifying in the racing, I thought that was a successful night. What did you think?
I really do. And like I said, I was very disappointed that we didn't come out of there, and I know we would have finished somewhere between the 4th and the 6th mark.
Yeah.
I was very disappointed in that, but because even in a modified, you take the one tire, you make live pit stops. It's a lot more going on in that one race than just running a Saturday night 75 lap late model stock race, because it's strategy. In these cars you burn your tires up very quick, and so it was a lot to learn in 99 laps, and so I felt the way we ran, the way we qualified, and everything that it went well, and everybody helped me. Phil helped. Neil helped. Everybody there just was a big supporter of it. That really made me more comfortable.
How did you've driven late models, you mentioned Busch East, of course we'll get to the go-karting stuff in a minute, but driving that modified, what did it compare to?
Honestly, it's like a big go-kart, really, and that may be some of the reason that I took off so quick. You do have a ton of power, but you got a ton of tire too. And this car, to me, when you're down in the racetrack getting grip, being able to put all that power down is when you're the fastest. And that's kind of like a go-kart, to where some stock cars you have to be kind of almost wrecking to go fast. So I think it really helped, and it was a big positive for me.
Now we roll over into 2023. You've run a couple races for us. I know you ran Caraway, but probably the highlight of the year so far when you're racing, and luckily that I was fortunate or glad that I was able to attend, and so did Elliot, and he brought his kids up there, but finished fourth at South Boston, a racetrack that you had some laps on, but talk about the emotion, the ups and downs, the roller coaster ride that you went on at South Boston that culminated in a top 5 finish for you that night.
Yeah, I mean, that's one race I really wanted to be good in, just because of we had a lot of people come watch us there. I had, when you return home somewhere, you want to be good,
sure,
and even though I didn't have that much experience, I felt like that, hey, I should be good here, and we qualified good. The redraw, I've learned that I cannot redraw. I'm very terrible at that, so we have to get somebody else to do that from now on. But we led some laps. That was a big goal to do that, and then we kind of backed off to try to save tire, and end up getting in a little incident right there about halfway through the race. Just a wreck happened in front, can't slow up quick enough, and we got behind a little bit. But to come back and run fourth, and we were, quite honestly, of the cars that was on the track at the end of the race, I felt like we really should have at least ran second. And I didn't quite get around Burt, but at the time I didn't have a front bumper. And when you're new in a series like that, you don't want to come over here and just run over people and be that guy. And so that's kind of where I was at. Maybe I was a little too nice, maybe I wasn't. I was upset with a fourth place finish. A lot of people have been jumping up and down, but I was upset because
I could tell when the race was over, you felt like because those, be honest, you don't have a full schedule of those races. You got a handful of those races, and I agree that Phil Stefanelli and his guys do a good job. And so, but when you've got 2, 3, 4 chances as opposed to 12 or 15 chances, it makes a difference.
Yeah, it does. And I just felt like that was the one race for me to come back and win. I felt like, hey, I could have won that race. And but that's the way it goes. And I learned a lot from that race. So hopefully we'll get an opportunity to do that, that track or Orange County or something again and move forward. But, we give 110% at every track. It's just when you roll in there and that track.
It's a lot more pressure on the driver too.
It is.
We back in the day, Elliot and I both, when you went to Richmond or went to Martinsville or came back when the Busch Series days, and when you come back to South Boston, it was just so many people there. I remember the first Orange County race that I won. I don't know how many people in the stands, probably 7,500, but 5,000 of them were there for me, holding up these Blaze Orange 25 signs. And it's like, God almighty, you come around and, you hold them up. Those races were 300 laps. You hold them up for 300 laps, and you feel like the weight of everybody there not wanting to let people down. But I was really proud of the way y'all ran at South Boston, and it is looking like, I guess can't say 100%, but it is looking like with the way the schedule is evolving for us that you'll get a chance to do South Boston and maybe Orange County again coming up this fall. And what would it mean to you to win one of those races. I know, you've won at everything else you've done in karting and racing, and I think the people that really know you and know your career know how talented and how many races you've won, but a lot of people may not fully understand how successful you've been in your racing career. But if you were able to snag one of these smart races against, you mentioned Burt Myers, but against the best of the best in the open wheel modified, where would that stack up in your racing accomplishments that you've done so far?
It would definitely be one of my biggest wins ever if I could do that. Just for the fact of, who is in that field and the fact of how difficult, it's a lot of difference in a touring series and a Saturday night series. That touring series is a lot tougher, and when if you go out there and if I could win a race and say, hey, I outran Burt Myers, Bobby Labonte, Ryan Newman, people like that, I mean, that's an accomplishment for me, and these are guys that, especially Ryan and Bobby, are people that I looked up to, at a point in time when they were.
Well, I was going to ask you that question, so Ryan Newman and Bobby Labonte are teammates of yours now at Sadler Stanley Racing. How has it been getting to know them or being at the track with them a little bit and getting to know them a little bit better?
It's been very good. He's a heck of a nice guy. I mean, he's willing to help you with anything, and I ask a lot of questions, just because I don't know. They have way more experience than I do. And Ryan, I've only been to the track when he's drove, so, but he's, just watching him drive is, pretty unbelievable.
Yeah.
I try to, when I go to these races and I don't race, I try to at least try to learn from them, because they've had so much experience that they could only make you better. But it's been really good racing with them.
Bill's walking back in there, so I'll give Bill, before we go back to the karting stuff, I'll let Senator Stanley throw you a question or two if you've got about Sadler Stanley Racing and what he's learned or what I did tell him, it looks like we'll be able to give him an opportunity to do South Boston and Orange County again coming up this fall. He was this close to South Boston last time, got a top 5.
Oh, yeah, he was amazing. Actually, the first race he ever ran for us, you were the most exciting driver to watch. I mean, the way you kind of plowed through the field without touching him. I mean, you ran a clean race. That was the race where you and I, Hermie, were yelling at the race control tower. Where was that? Caraway? Hickory. And
no, you were doing most of the yelling.
Well, you were like that dad outside the fence at the ball game.
It may have made a little bit of an ass of myself, but it was for the team. And you got kind of wrecked up there at the end, didn't you?
Just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, what happened there?
But 5 to go.
Yeah, five laps
the guy
to go.
forgot there was a corner there.
Our main driver, Jonathan Brown, allegedly jumped the restart.
Yeah.
You are our final hope. And then, was it Meismer or?
Yeah, Meismer.
Yeah. He loves hitting our cars. I don't know what it is about that, but he'll hit everything except the lady in the parking lot.
Hermie asked me, did I ever do something to this guy? I was like, Hermie, I ain't never met the guy in my life. I don't know.
He seems to
well,
find
he knew who you were because he made a comment to you about maybe going back to go-karts or something.
He did, yeah.
He must have some history in karting because I went to a meeting in Winston-Salem a couple of weeks ago, just some people involved in the Smart Tour, and he had a PRC shirt on.
Maybe he don't like you then.
Maybe he don't like me.
maybe that's what it was.
Well, he found out by running for the state senate in the nomination that he's not the most loved person in this area. That's right. That's what happens. The other race we love watching. My son loves watching when you're in the car. No, but one like at Caraway, the last race you ran, it seemed like you were one of the fastest cars. You drew the pole on redraw. You started out fast, and then you kind of drifted to the back. What was going on there?
Well, it's one thing I've learned, and this has been, I was telling Hermie, it's a lot of difference in this car, from any other type of car. For me, what I have learned, to go fast in qualifying or early on, you have to be really, really free. Cars got to turn, rotate. Well, when a car turns and rotates that good on these modifieds, after about 15 laps, you have no rear grip. And so it's kind of what happened. We were really good. I mean, honestly, I thought I could have took the lead at any time, and then once we got to running, we just kept losing rear grip, and the guys all day long, I kind of told them I need to turn better, and they give me that. And then it rained. We didn't get to qualify or, have a long practice or anything. So we kind of took a shot at it, really. But yeah, and we got in trouble. We probably should have pitted, and come in and fix the car, to where at that time we thought, hey, we can ride around 7th or 8th, fix the car, and then drive back to the front. But, I don't know if we really glazed the tires over or what happened, but from about a lap 30 to lap 70 until we got the caution, we were terrible.
And that's another thing that brings up on any level of racing. We've talked about late models, we've talked about modifieds, we'll talk about karting in a minute. But the fine line between winning and being embarrassing is snap of a finger.
Yeah.
You a tenth
turns on the head of a pin
off, you're out.
Yeah.
And that's how competitive racing is in general, certainly in the Smart Series too, because so many good cars. I mean, you got on the Smart Series now, you get 25, 26 cars lining up. And Jonathan, you chime in here too, but 15 of those cars, any one of those 15 could probably win any race on any given night.
I think so. And I think this is just me looking at what I used to see. I think the Smart Tour used to have 10 to 15 cars, and you had 3 that could win. Mm-hmm. So you could, it wasn't as big of a deal to take a tire, go to the rear, and come back. To where now, when you've got 20, I think it's been 25 and 29 cars a couple of times I've ran.
Right. Good car count.
Yeah, I mean, and 15 of them are new cars with good drivers, and the budget to race on. It just, you can't kind of manipulate going to the back, coming to the front. You have to play a little more strategy and stuff. But it's a lot of good people in it now.
Yeah, and a lot of big races coming up. We've got our last kind of little break right now that we've had. We go back to Ace Speedway.
Yeah, it's the Bowman Gray break. I mean, we break so
break. We go
Bowman
back.
Gray can run their series.
But the Smart Series goes back in August, late August, to make up a rain date, and then we get in really to the meat of the close of the season. So outside of the Sadler Stanley cars, Bobby and Ryan and you.
Well, wait. What can we do as a team to make your car better so that when you get in it, I mean, I know what you're, in the tracks that you're used to, it's obvious.
Right.
We've been putting you on tracks that you've never run before, it looks
right.
like. And you're learning as you go. And if you don't have a lot of practice or, you're rained out for qualifying or whatever it is, that minimizes your ability to understand the track. What can we do to kind of shore up that difference or make it better for you? Because every time you get in a car, and my son Chandler loves Bobby Labonte, but if you had to say, all right, who's your next favorite Sadler Stanley Racing driver, he wouldn't say Ryan Newman. He'd say you. He loves watching you. What can we make you? How can we make your performance better to make my son happier? That's all I worry about.
Well, myself and Phil have discussed, going to test more. Because I think now, again, like I said, so many teams have caught up. And I told Phil, I said, when you want to test, you call me. We'll go test. I love to test. I love to get better. And obviously, if we go test, obviously when we go to South Boston, Orange County, I got the experience. So, whatever ends up on our schedule to wherever to go, I'd like to go test. If we go test, I definitely think, because the testing, I think what the first 20, 30 minutes of practice is me learning the track. And so if we get to go test, we take that out. So the 20 or 30 minutes, I can really tell Phil, hey, we need to do this, this, and this, to make the car better, and I kind of just tell him what the car is doing, and, it's on Phil. He says, okay, well, we're going to do this and to make it better, but yeah, so I think that's the biggest thing is just maybe testing and get
more time in the seat,
get more seat time. Yep.
So were you there? I mean, what do you have an opinion on Caraway, the last race we won, the second race in a row that Burt Myers won, but his left rear was glowing? Did you see that?
I didn't see it because I was in the race, but another competitor actually brought it up to me as I'm walking down pit road.
And what does that mean? I mean, the left rear is the brakes are glowing. I mean, what does that mean?
Well, what it means is it causes a lot of speculation amongst competitors, because typically in racing terms, what that means is traction control. We just tell it like it is. I mean, you don't come off a corner, and how traction control typically works is those systems modulate the brakes on the rear of the cars to electronically keep the rear tires from spinning. And so as a driver, if you have traction control, and let's just say this, they didn't find any traction control on Bert's car.
But that doesn't mean it wasn't there.
I don't know if it was there or not.
They were looking for one kind of traction control, maybe not another.
But what I'm trying to explain
more advanced than the other.
What I'm trying to explain is, as a driver, and Jonathan's done this before, we've all done it the years I've raced too. On a normal circumstances, if you don't have traction control, when you get to the center of the corner and you start to gas the car up to go off the corner where all the speed is made on short tracks, which is the center of the corner, say to the start-finish line, that's where you've got to have that forward drive. If you don't have traction control, you have to modulate the spin of the rear tires or keep the rear tires from spinning by your right foot. You have to feather the throttle down as much as you can to put as much power down as possible without spinning the rear tires. Now, if you have traction control and it's working properly, it takes that out of the driver's hands. The driver just stomps the gas to the floor, and
in
the system,
in the turn, he's stomping the gas.
Coming out of the turn.
Yeah, but early. I mean, you got to be on the gas
earlier, but you go straight to the floor, and that traction control is designed to, when it senses a wheel spinning, it applies brake pressure to the whatever tire is spinning and prevents that. So the driver doesn't have to worry about wheel spin. The driver, you get to the center of the corner, and Jonathan can tell you what a wonderful feeling that is as a driver to stomp the gas and just go. And it will apply modulate brake to the rear of the car to keep, and why that's important is when you start spinning that rear tire, either one of those rear tires, you start wearing that tire out. That tire gets more heat in it. And
what causes it to glow?
The glow?
Yeah.
Is the
brake pressure.
The brake pressure.
Be the brake hub.
The brake caliper.
The brake caliper.
You were close.
Yeah. So
that was a ball.
Those systems. I mean, and it's a huge, not only a competitive advantage because it keeps the tire from spinning. So at the end of a 99 lap race, especially the last 15, 20 laps, you haven't spun your rear tires, and everybody else has because they don't have that safety
traction
net
control.
So what those glowing calipers and that brake rotor, what that is telling everybody is he had a whole lot of brake on the rear tires of that car coming off the corner, which typically coming off a corner, you're all gas, no brake. And so that is really something that for the integrity of the series.
And that's illegal. It's illegal.
And by the way, the one car was caught last year. They never called it a traction control system. They called it a data acquisition device. He was called on that last year and suspended for a race, I believe.
And didn't have a chance at the championship for Smart because of that.
Okay.
Now, I remember last year at North Wilkesboro, which the team won, by the way, under Ryan Newman. Mm-hmm. Now, I wouldn't know Burt Myers if he was sitting here. I never met him. But I remember hearing that name, and he was very, very fast then at North Wilkesboro.
Oh, he's great driver, racer. Great competitor.
Good guy.
But
somewhere up north, New Jersey?
No. He's in North Carolina.
Okay, I thought it was up.
But I'm going to tell you that for a driver of his caliber with the fan bases he's got, for them to have that conversation to be going on around the Smart Series, it needs for the sake of the series and the credibility of the series and the direction of the series. It's got to be, if it's going on, which you look at what people saw in pictures and otherwise, it's something that really has to be addressed in a major way, because if people keep spending all this time, effort, and money to go to these races, I think most people, although they don't like it, racers, they don't like not winning. They can accept it better if they feel like the playing field is level. And when they feel like they're running against something like that, which is it's not like somebody cheated up a motor and has got 15 more horsepower or 10 more foot-pounds of torque. I mean, if your car's good enough on a long race, you can overcome that. But on something like that, and something that's blatant like that everybody in the stands can see and everybody in the pits can see, it'll be interesting to see how the officials of the Smart Series deal with that.
Now, would that be Chris Williams?
That'd be Chris Williams.
And I'm told from Chris Williams, and for disclosure, full disclosure, I represent the tour as their lawyer, try to help them through all the problems. But he sent himself and all the officials that he could down to NASCAR to be educated on the types of traction control that are different from the traditional ones that they might have seen before or been able to catch, like, through the brake line. And they went and inspected the car through the traditional methods. This may be more like a Bluetooth kind of technologically advanced type of traction control, if that's what was used. And they couldn't prove it. Everybody knew it, but they couldn't prove it. And, in the law, as a lawyer, it's always what we say is, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove that matters in court. And so that's probably the position. So they're trying to make themselves better. But it does bring a question and a cloud upon the series when now the guy that was suspended for one race is maybe doing it again but didn't get caught. And at the end of the race, our guy, Phil Stefanelli, who builds our cars, runs our cars, manages our cars, he built Bert's number one car that was there.
And by the way, he was the one that went to the Smart officials
and said, search him.
Said, you need to take a look at what's going on.
But
here.
Burt Myers, I don't know, Jonathan, if you heard this afterwards, but the interview that he did with Flow Racing afterwards, he said, I want to thank Phil. Phil and I are the only ones that know for the magic ball joint that he created, that he did, the magic ball joint. And then 2 days later, we're seeing pictures about, with a glowing left rear. I mean, that became a question too. I mean, do you have anything to say about that, Mr. Raceco?
I don't.
Okay. Okay. I don't either, but that's a question. I mean, what you want is the integrity of the sport. If you're going to grow the sport, it's got to give everybody an equal chance at winning, especially as you say, Jonathan, you got 15, 16, 17 cars that have a chance to win. When you're being creative, I understand how creativity built NASCAR. I understand. I've heard all the stories. I love them too. But ultimately, especially in these series that aren't Cup, I think we need to be as diligent as we possibly can to make sure that you, Jonathan Cash, have a chance of winning in the same kind of car with same, maybe not the same setup, but the same kind of car without any tricks or magic ball joints that will give you an opportunity to win or at least race fairly. So that, like you said earlier, man, if I lost, I knew I lost fair. And if you don't do that, then we're going to be a Mickey Mouse series.
This is a critical time for the series, in my opinion.
And why do you say that?
Well, I mean, because I went to a meeting a couple of weeks ago in Winston-Salem with a group of owners and some drivers in the series that are concerned about how the series is being managed and operated. So
so what did they come up with some solutions?
They're and I don't know if how far they've gone along with it or whatever, but what they proposed at the meeting was, and they actually elected a group of their peers, 3 people, to represent the racers to management of the Smart Tour, to go to management of the Smart Tour and tell them their concerns. And I don't know if they've had further meetings or if they have meetings planned, but instead of 28 teams raising hell with management, they decided, okay, and that's what they did at that meeting. You wrote down, everybody had an opportunity to write down who they would like to represent the racers in meetings with the sanctioning body. And they took the person with the most votes, person with the second votes, person with the third votes, and they were planning to try to go to meet with or talk to management, Chris Williams and his team with the Smart Tour to say, okay, these are some issues that we think are happening. These are some concerns we have being competitors in this series. And we'd like to get these things addressed. And to get them addressed, we'd like to nominate these 3 people to represent our interest.
They've unionized.
Close. But I think that's a good idea. Now, Chris has got a lot on his plate. And from last year and the Burt issue, and when you and I were yelling at him at Hickory, he's installed. Now you got David Hoots, NASCAR's race control guy for years.
At some races.
Some races. He actually built a tech center, at least a measurement device. I think Phil Stefanelli was instrumental in that.
And I'm going to be devil's advocate as you're saying this.
Yeah.
But those devices are only good if you give the tech people, the full authority to enforce what they find with these tech tools.
Okay. And then he basically pulled out as race director as much as he can, and created a rule book. We now have our own rule book. Mm-hmm. So I mean, he has done some things. Yeah. So I mean, we're moving in the right direction. But this is the time where you should or get off the pot. I mean, you've got to be, if you're going to take this race series to the next level, and be respected like the car store, you got to do something.
It has so much potential.
It does.
But as I said, Sadler Stanley Racing doesn't want any unfair advantage, but we don't want to be at any disadvantage either when we go to the racetrack.
Well, we carry the primary sponsor for the race series as well.
Right.
And we're running probably 3 of the best race car drivers you could ever put out there in the series that will put butts in the seats, bring them a reputation of something that people want to go to or watch on Flow Racing TV. And so you better have a good product and better be ready and tight.
And I told you this, so I'm not saying anything that I hadn't said to you. We all that are involved with the Smart Series want the Smart Series to be thought of and presented along the same lines of like the Cars Tour or NASCAR, Wheeling Modified Tour and all that. And to do that, you have to have an iron fist when it comes to the integrity of the sport. Look,
you mean call the strikes that are strikes.
When you go to a NASCAR race,
don't do a 50-50 if it looked good.
It's no 50-50 calls.
I ain't got to get out of here kind of call, right?
I was at the NASCAR track for 25 plus years. Okay, They don't do everything right, but when we load up Sadler Stanley Racing and go to a Wheeling Tour race, whether it be Richmond or Martinsville, or when we go to North Wilkesboro, one thing I do not worry about is whether or not somebody is cheating.
You didn't say Langley. I thought we were going to Langley.
We're not going to Langley now because you missed all that while you were in the pisser.
If you mean outside talking umpire talk to Shep, that's a pisser.
Well, what we did was the Smart Tour rescheduled the Ace race for the Friday night prior to Langley.
Okay.
So instead of going to Langley, we are now going to put a third car in at South Boston and Orange County with Jonathan Cash.
Oh, that's great. Sweet.
And you were on that email.
I voted yes.
Okay.
Who's running this joint?
Appreciate that.
It was a 50-50 call.
No, but what I'm saying is, when
Since you're such a good driver,
when you let us go to the NASCAR track, the competition is tough. But
sweet,
it's going to be fast.
NASCAR is not going to call down to the tech people and say, hey, give the so-and-so car a nod. If they're a little bit out of whack, let them go. And so for this series to take that next step, the competitors just have to understand and have to feel confident that when they go to the racetrack, if they get beat, they're getting beat by a better car with a better setup, with a better driver and better strategy on that particular night, not because somebody in the tower told them they could get back.
Sounds like legal counsel may need to make a suggestion.
Well, I have conversations on a daily basis with Chris. I know he's got a lot on his plate. He's trying the best he can. I mean, he's dealing with a lot of personalities, racetracks, and trying to grow the series, and now the new competition, which is the Cars Tour. I think he's doing the best he can, but I understand. I mean, look, I'm not afraid to tell him when he's wrong or yell at him. Certainly, we proved that last year. But I want the series to succeed because I think it's so important for short tracks, for guys like you, Jonathan, for those rural areas that have the short tracks in them. Putting butts in the seats helps the economy, gets people thinking about Franklin County Speedway or South Boston Speedway, which I want to buy. Those are the things that really matter because that's what built that area. We should maintain and retain them and also celebrate them and make sure that if racing is going to make a great comeback, I think you have to do it at the grassroots level first. So, and I bet you do it at the kart level, right? What about them karts?
Yeah, I want to spend the last few minutes of this podcast here talking about karting. We got you in the Smart Tour and do all that, but our connection is with Promier Racing Chassis as well. Now, you've been around karting a long time, as we just talked about, and I guess maybe 5 or 6 years ago or so. How long have we been together on Promier now?
I'm gonna say I think it's been 6 years now.
Okay.
I believe.
Now, just to give everybody some background, Promier Racing Chassis is a joint venture I did with somebody who I love and respect dearly, and that's Robin Bradshaw. Robin when I was growing up in karting, worked at competition karting in Winston-Salem, was kind of the backbone of that organization from as far as building engines to building karts. And all of my engines that my brother and I got and the laser karts that we raced were all of Robin stuff. And so later in life, probably around 2013, 2014, Robin and I, who remained longtime friends, and Robin actually currently, his full-time job is he works in the engine shop at ECR Engines, building engines for Richard Childress. But we decided in 2013, 2014 that we wanted to get back into karting and try to find a way to give back and build a product and build a brand that we felt like could enable us to help the next generation of karters. And so ultimately, sometime during that journey, we partnered up with you. So my first question to you is Robin Bradshaw. You get a chance to talk to him, work with him. You do now for the last couple of years, you've done the majority or 95% of the on-track testing that we've done driving wise. What has it been like to work with? And the Smart Modified Tour people and the general people that listen to this podcast are not going to know Robin as much, but people in karting that listen to this podcast will know who Robin is. So how has it been for you? What has it been like to work with and test with Robin, especially the last couple of years when you've taken more of a leadership role in testing with Robin, developing the Promier brand?
Well, Robin's probably, and I didn't know Robin a lot back in my early karting days, but since we've done this here, Robin's probably one of the smartest people I know. And I didn't really realize how smart Robin really was, until we started this testing. And because, I'm a type of guy that if I try something, I try because I think it might work. Robin's figured out that it's already going to work before he tries it. Mm-hmm. Like he understands, and he's taught me a lot too. And, on the engine side of it, how to actually test something. Just because you do something one time and make it better, it doesn't necessarily mean it's better. You need to ABA it, as he calls it.
Right.
And so it's taught me a lot. But working with him, just learning why he does things and how he does things like I said, it's taught me a lot, and I've been in it a long time, But one thing about Robin, I don't think just the other day I had a conversation, and kind of like you all had with the Smart Tool, we were talking to WKA and we were talking about how to make things better.
WKA is World Karting Association.
Yes. And one of the names that got brought up to help try to make it better in the engine side of it was Robin Bradshaw. Yep. And Robin, he still builds our limiteds, but he hadn't really been in the engine department a long time as far as karting. So he just has that reputation, that name of that people still go back to him, even though he's been kind of out of that part of it, the engine side for so many years. But as far as the go-karts, he's made a tremendous go-kart. I think if I remember correctly, this kart you've had since 14 or 15.
Same kart,
and it hadn't anything changed, and still in all those years it's still one of the best karts on the market. I like to say it's the best kart on the market, but we have an opportunity to win each and every weekend we go somewhere.
You're talking about testing, and I just can't get kind of tickled for people because a lot of people, not a lot, some people in the karting business, to your point, they'll show up one night and just decide they want to test something. So they'll show up at a race with something a little bit different. And if they happen to hit the tires right that night, they think they've got the next best thing, which Robin does not allow that to happen. When we built the first premiered the V1, we built 7 prototypes and tested it before we landed on what was the V1. And then the V2 had, I think, 4 prototypes before we landed on the V2. And you yourself, as we've started to move towards trying to develop a V3, you've tested probably 4 or 5 prototypes. You correct me if I'm wrong.
I think that's
4
correct.
or 5. As we try to build something to outrun our V2, which that is the only thing, that is all Robin's wheelhouse. All I tell Robin is, as the financial backer of Promier Racing Chassis, I just tell Robin, we can't sell something or offer something to the public until we are 100% sure that it's better than what we currently have. Because I've seen, I know you have too, a lot of people in the karting industry, in the rush to come out with something new, they rush it, they get it out there, then the next year, 18 months, they realize that that's not any better or might not be as good as what we had before. Then they're going back to what they had before. So all I've told Robin is our V3, when we put it to the market, because people, and a lot of people, go-kart costs $4,500 now, turnkey out the door. That's a lot of money.
Right.
We can't do that, sell that to a family, especially for a kid, and until we're sure that it's going to be the best that we can provide. So how far along do you think Robin is, kart-wise and body-wise, to being able to put the next product on the track?
I mean, my opinion, I think that the body's probably coming before the kart would. Yeah. I would think.
Now, you've done some testing on some new body pieces that Robin has designed. What can you say about what you learned from that so far, based on what we are currently running?
I was very surprised that moving this and moving that, what it actually does on a go-kart. Nobody think about aero on a go-kart, but we do have an aero push on a go-kart. People don't believe that, but we do. But Robin has made some adjustments to the body to affect that, and we've done some single kart testing and two kart testing. And I let's be honest, I just did not believe what one little piece of something would do. And I didn't want to, without saying too much, I think, it's very smart to think of that, and so I think that's coming before the kart. I mean, currently we've tested some karts, some prototypes, and I think they've been as good, but they hadn't been any better, I think. And that's and I get asked all the time, hey, you're the guy, you're testing. I don't want to buy a kart because I don't want to buy two of them within 6 months. So I tell people, I personally don't think we're, not by the end of 2023 anyway. Right. I don't think we'll have.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I think hope we have a body, a final version of a body. There's in fact, I talked to Robin yesterday about some testing dates. Hopefully by this fall or by the end of this year, because not only do we have to get the body, finish the testing on it, but we've also, once we land on that body, we've got to produce it, because I don't want, and this is backwards to a lot of people, but it's just how I think. I want, even though you're my number one distributor and you do all the testing, you might think it's fair, but I don't think it's fair for you to show up with a new body and race against some of my other customers that don't have it yet.
Right.
In a race condition. That's just not a good business practice in my view. So I've told Robin, I said, once we land on the body, then we've got to have time for our people to produce 75 or 100 of these bodies, so that at least they get the option. If they don't want to spend the money, then that's okay. But it would be a hard pill to swallow, or would be difficult for me as a business person to try to say, okay, you're going to show up at a big race, let's just call it a Max Daddy or a Big O race, and Jonathan Cash is going to have the new latest and greatest body, but you're driving from Kentucky, and you're going to spend $10,000 to come to this race, and you don't have it, and
can't get it.
So can't get it. So that's just a personal thing of mine. But you know karting better than I do. How rare is it for us, and you're on it now, Promier Kart, to have a kart that's, let's call it 8 years old, and to still be because we've been through multiple product changes from competitors of ours. How rare is it to have a kart to be that successful for that long?
I've been in karting a long time, and as far as me being able to keep up, I've never seen it in my lifetime. And
why do you think it is?
I think number one, it was a good product. It still is a good product, but I do think these manufacturers probably come out too quick with things, to try to sell more, because I think some of them feel like, hey, we've built 500, just throwing a number out. We built 500. Well, I'm not going to sell 100 next year because they need something new. So they build them just to be new,
yeah.
And
I've even had people tell me they're going to change the name and change one little bar on a cart to put a new cart out there so they can create a used cart market.
Right.
Get more used carts back, and we've been on the same brand. But I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, going back to what you said about Robin's testing, he spent so much time verifying and pulling all that together. And we've had a hard time, and you know this as good as anybody, had a hard time building something that's faster than what we got.
Right. And you just can't, I mean, at the end of the day, you wouldn't allow this and wouldn't want this, but let's just say we got a new cart out and we go race wherever, and me and my driver think the old cart's better. Well, we're going to want to run the old cart, but as a manufacturer, you're not going to want to do it.
That's right.
So Robin is not going to put us in that predicament.
That's right.
He's going to make
That's
sure
been the thing, and I've told him that once we decide on the next piece, the old jig is gone.
Right.
We're not going back and visiting that again. So talk a little bit about, then we'll close this show out. A lot of talk about karting in general. Where in the overall scheme of things, what is the status of karting? What is the health of karting? And if you were to be put in charge, I know you're well respected in the industry, not only in the Mid-Atlantic region, but nationwide. If you were called and asked to give your input on how to make karting better, or to strengthen it, or to make sure it's around in 10, 15 years, what do you do?
Well, I think one thing, without blaming anybody or doing anything, is this is what I tell people all the time. Go-karting is for the people that can't afford to race cars. And we've sort of driven it, especially with the tire stuff, not necessarily saying one tire or another tire, but we've driven it to where it costs as much. You
got to understand, some of these people listening don't understand what you mean. So when you say tire stuff, what do you mean?
So on race cars, you have shocks and springs and sway bars and stuff like that. At go-karting, you have tires. You get your chassis dialed in, and relatively, it's not a lot of chassis work going on these days as far as moving cross and camera. Everything's kind of static. So everything we do, we do with tires. We may have a tire that's, and it's really crazy because I have race car people, they just don't understand it. So, we run tires 1 week old, 2 week old. They have heat cycles, and they have internal prep. And it's really kind of gotten out of hand. It's what makes so it's making the average racer or the average family not be able to afford to do it. Mm-hmm. So the first thing we got to do to fix it is we got to get that cost down. And I think, and I can't say I have the solution because I don't have a solution for it. But a bunch of bright minds together can figure it out. But we've got to get
in the overall scheme of things. With 100% covering everything, what percentage of cost to the karting family is tires?
I would personally say it's at least 60%.
Wow!
And when I have new
just
people,
for the tires,
just for the tires, and when I have new people,
you would be really sad.
What's that run a week?
Depends on what you want to do.
Well,
but I mean, the average.
That's what I'm getting ready to say. Y'all run tires in every week, whether we race or not. But
yes,
my guys get brand new tires out of the box, put them on rim, go back on a sanding machine, and start cutting the rubber off of it.
What?
Yeah,
it's really crazy because we have tires. One manufacturer tire, we have to have brand new tires all the way to tires that's 2 months old. And in between that, you have different internal prep in them. So you have 40 or 50 sets of tires in there that you may need that weekend.
40 or 50?
Oh, yeah. And that's where,
And that's if you don't get a rain shower.
It doesn't rain, correct. So
a rain shower, you got to regroup.
Yes.
Then ruin a bunch of tires.
But, not.
So what's the set run for? Brand new.
We call them dog leg sets, which is 3 because the left front you normally don't do a lot, but they're about 180. But then you have to cut them, you have to prep them, and if you don't do it yourself, you pay somebody to do that.
Cut them.
And so, Jonathan, your business, so that's P&P Speed Shop. You build engines. How many engine customers do you have, roughly? Or how many engines a week do you build?
We try to get out 10 or 12 a week. And the business season is 18 to 20.
Mm-hmm. Is he paying us to race? Boy, making bank.
And now you also sell tire prep.
We do.
So he sells prep that the people prep the tires with. So what's a gallon of prep retail?
It's $80 a gallon. So, and it just depends on how much where you're going.
I'm in the wrong damn business.
Trust me, you're
not.
All
right, so I got a question. before we close this out. I'm going to ask you a hypothetical. I'm going to ask you to assume for the purposes of my question, I usually say this in the court of law, that I've got a 12-year-old son. I'm a state senator, hypothetically. He's playing baseball, and he's got this damn umpire that keeps calling a strike zone outside his normal strike zone to the point where he's ready
one
to
that he has to one that you have to sell.
Right. He is selling strikes against my boy to the point where he is giving up baseball, and he wants to go karting without investing the $4,500, the $180 attire plus the $80 prep. What does a father and mother
you got gas, you got oil, you got transportation,
my question.
You got entry fees, hotel.
Okay. So what does a family do to see if their son or daughter are interested in karting since they've been driven out of baseball by an umpire? Where do you start without, going whole hog on the $4,500 in the tires and everything else and the gas and the hotel and all that? How do you see if that's what they want to do without investing all that money?
Well, you can do test sessions. I mean, we have carts there that we can go test people on a Sunday afternoon after the races are over, just see if they like it. Just like my daughter, she's tested twice. She has no interest in it at all.
How old is she?
Johnny's in the horse business now.
Yeah. So
don't ever.
She rode a go-kart and didn't like it.
Yeah.
Or not yet. So Johnny had to go buy some horses.
You can't hide money, can you? You can't hide money on these carts.
She says horses don't catch on fire and go-karts and race cars do. So
but
you know what I mean? But
I've owned a couple, and let me tell you. Number one, every lady in your family will treat them better than they treat you, the one that's writing the check. Okay. Number two, you never get the full satisfaction out of, that you think you would from them riding it. And three, you better do everything you can to buy whatever they need, and it's all expensive. And if they ride around in a ring or dressage or over fences, then you go there for 11 hours for 2 minutes of watching them run.
Yeah. When I go, I don't understand it, but I'm supporting, dude. Yeah. But.
And stay away from the guys that come up and go, "How you doing?"
We have done that a lot.
They are not race car drivers.
We have done that a lot in the past where a family would reach out and say, "Hey, we don't know how much," or so like if we race somewhere on a Saturday night, we would stay over on a Sunday, $400 or $500, rent the track, put tires on the cart, put cones up out there, start out slow, take them around on a golf cart first, show them, and just let them go. And it may not find out in the first day, but after a day or two, I mean, you'll know pretty much if they don't want to come in, they like it. If they don't want to do it, you'll learn pretty quick.
And if a family wanted to do that, do they contact you?
They can.
Okay, and where would they get in touch with you?
We have a Facebook, PNP Speed Shop, and also we have a website, pnpspeedshop.com.
Okay.
But yeah, they can get in touch with us to arrange that, and we actually do that a lot. Take people.
You might do it one more time.
Karting is very competitive, but the last couple of years, y'all have been fortunate at PNP, and I like to say, I would like to think in small part due to the partnership with Promier, but what in your most successful years as a driver and as a owner, because you run Promier karts, but you own your own team and all your stuff, how much money can you win or have you won in your best years as a driver and an owner racing go-karts?
I think the best year I had, we won like $115,000. So now I've been very fortunate.
What was your net? Gross net.
So this year, we're like
you'll be over $1 million this year.
50,000 as of July 1st. So
wow. Now, are you racing against just adults? Do they have an age class, or are you racing against 9-year-olds?
They have young, this age classes. So no, I'm not running against. But I'm not driving them. I'm too old to drive. Go karts is way more demanding than a car. Just saying.
Okay.
So I got a young guy.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
So
you might fit in like he's got. He has a driver that drives for him in the adult classes. He's also got a family that would pay him, and I don't know how he structures it, but basically pay him a fee to maintain a cart, bring the cart to the track, build the motor, provide all the gas, the oil, the tires, pay like a flat fee.
Jonathan Stefanelli.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, kind of same thing.
All right, so you get paid per diem or whatever that might be per race. Okay, and so, but see, I've been watching like a MAV TV and some of the race channels. Karting, adult karting, or at least teenage to adult karting is huge in like Europe, England.
It is. They do a lot of sprint stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's amazing. And they do, road courses and all that stuff. It's pretty fun to watch. My son and I are
I
glued
guess
to
you
it.
want to do that too.
No. I'm just kind of figuring out because my son loves
We
racing.
focus on,
He's
just
great
so
on
you
the
know, we
sim,
focus
but-
on dirt oval.
Do you? Oh, okay.
Racing, yeah.
All right. So I guess what I'm saying is so karting seems to be more intense at a level which is different from, say, bandoleros or legends, right? Which are the small, right? And those seem to be young children. Like, Brexton Bush is driving, I think, bandoleros.
Wings, Brent.
And I think it's Bandoleros now.
Bandoleros. So is it fair to say that those bandoleros and the wing stuff, the smaller stuff, is for kids, but kart's more for more mature drivers?
It's kind of taking a turn. It used to be, before those came along, everybody started in go-kart and worked their way up. But the go-karting, it is for the kids, but kind of where I see it, the legend cars and the bandolero, you see a lot of the, like you said, the Bushes and the Harvicks and people like that in those things. The go-karting is kind of for the ones that can't afford to do that, I should say.
Because those are more expensive cars.
They are. They're more expensive.
To buy, maintain, and to run.
It is. And, and the go-karting really sounds, and I tell people all the time, I have dads that come to me and say, hey, I can run a race car for what I run a go-kart. No, you can't. Right. You really can't. So, but go-karting is for the people that can't afford to do that. And that's how I always like to say it. And it's not downing anybody or degrading anybody, but that's just kind of how it is.
What's the top speed in a go-kart compared to a bandolero or a Legends car?
Honestly, probably go-kart's probably faster than a bandolero. I would say. Now, a legend car, if you get like Orange County or something, would be
especially the sensation of speed.
Yes.
When you sit down in a cart, your ass is a half inch off the ground.
Yeah.
So if you're running 50, it feels like probably 80
Right.
to 90. I mean, that sensation.
So they
of
run
speed.
about 50, 55?
Most of the time you average like a 65 deal. You get some places, we run 80. But
Well, you would be running like 17.
With the blinker on.
that's the thing. Most people think we're like racing at the beach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The kid kart, the fun track. But,
Right.
But it's a lot more involved.
And what I'm seeing now is a lot of you're seeing these like in Greensboro and other places, the indoor karting with the electric carts. It used to be, we go to Richmond and the Sody carts were up there right near the racetrack, and we go race. I think that's closed down now, but we would go race those things. Those were gas powered. Now you're seeing the electrics that are running inside of
AOC.
malls and stuff.
It's AOC.
Is that right? But I mean, that gives that kind of almost experience, just not as fast, right?
Right.
Okay.
It does.
All right. So my son has really not run a go-kart at a go-kart level yet, even being in one of those inside tracks in Greensboro. Okay.
Right.
I'm just trying to figure this out hypothetically.
Yeah.
Since my son's getting burned by the umpire behind the plate who's calling damn strikes that are balls.
They sounded like strikes.
Man, Jonathan, we really enjoyed the hell out of this, and we want you back on. What we really want to do is the next race. When's the next race you're running for us? Because, I only hear about it from Hermie.
Right.
Just like I tell him the day before we tape this
I
podcast, he
think
tells me the day before what
we got
we're
to check Mr. Newman.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do Orange County and South
with Mr.
Boston, and
Newman.
then Tri-County
Well, Mr.
is...
Newman was about 17 lap down at the NASCAR race in New Hampshire. Did you see that?
I'm not
I was trying to
commenting.
get him more NASCAR rides. Just saying.
Yeah,
I don't mean that ugly, but
No, I love him to death. We were rooting for him.
But
He was in the back.
personally, for me, on the karting side, Jonathan, we appreciate the partnership, and I think what we're doing with each other is mutually beneficial. That's the way things are supposed to work.
It's awesome.
They don't always work
especially
that
what
way.
you're doing for young
And then on
people
the-
and families.
On the
That's
Sadler
awesome.
Stanley part, I know that's something that you really appreciate. You've told me multiple times. Appreciate that opportunity, and we hope to give you 2, maybe 3 more opportunities this year to try to get
And some more merch.
your win in there.
Some more
Is there going
Sadler
to be any Tar
Stanley
Heel
swag.
opportunities? Any ticket opportunities?
No, I think we've just kind of decided to come unbenefited on the college team discussion.
that was a really good game we went to, though.
It was a good game.
You mean the last home game
That we won.
Cameron Indoor that Krzyzewski coached?
Yeah. We didn't quite make it to that one, but when we did make it in the Dean Dome.
My favorite, well,
Clearly, I was left out of
that's
all
your
this.
favorite, but my favorite is the fact that Johnny Cash, I don't know how much money you spent, but spent a significant amount of cash to go watch Zion Williams. Is it Williams or Williamson?
Williamson.
Williamson's last game at Cameron Indoor Stadium against the Tar Heels, and then he fell down and blew his shoe off
That's his shoe up.
in the first half, and Luke May and the Tar Heels, as my brother said, Luke May pistol whipped the Blue Devils in Cameron Indoor Stadium.
Wow.
How much did you pay Zion to fall out of his chute
feel
that
some
night? He knew I
Not,
was
not as
gone.
much as Duke paid him.
The tension
Man,
is all of a sudden. This was a
cool,
really good conversation. Now it's getting ugly. It's like the parent
Let's go eat.
screaming at the umpire.
Let's go eat.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Hey, can you take us to eat on your
Sure.
yacht?
Hey, how about it's Billy Boy's birthday week, too?
I turned
Billy Bob.
56 on Friday. That's true.
You don't look a day. You don't look a day over 62.
All right, go get your fucking haircut, okay? Weren't you supposed
That's
to get a haircut?
$25.
That's
$25.
Damn it. I'm going to have to bleep that one. Ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Cash, we love having you on the team. We love having you here on the podcast. Everybody,
We'll get him some more races in.
Again, if you want to contact Jonathan Cash,
Intestine dates. He needs two things.
that's up to Hermie umpire, okay?
He needs dates, intestine dates.
So, hey, did I tell you that?
Pull the weed eater one more time.
Yeah. So did I tell you when I walked outside before your mama left, she was outside washing your marlin? She seriously was. She was washing your marlin right there on the ground. It's pretty amazing. I didn't know you could wash those.
Yeah.
It wasn't that one. It was another one. Do you know that? You have your mama wash your marlin often?
I have never asked her about that.
Well, you can probably go to Pornhub and see all kinds of washing marlin.
Right, type in
I didn't say her.
mama
his
washing son's marlin.
Yeah,
and see
on
what comes
Pornhub.
up.
See what.
All right, that's another
Not quite
podcast that's
sure
coming up
what all
next.
that meant, but
I'd never seen someone washing a trophy fish.
Only in Carolina.
Yeah, I know. That was pretty impressive. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley. I want to thank Jonathan Cash one more time. Give us exactly how we can get in contact with you, that parent that may want that run on Sunday or may want to buy one of your carts.
Yeah, we have a Facebook, PNP Speed Shop, and also we have a website, pnpspeedshop.com, and any of those that can get in touch with us.
And Hermie, that's the same place if we want to get a Hermie cart? I mean,
Yeah.
whatever you're doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And thanks, guys. This has been great, especially the umpire talk. Thank
what
you,
we're gonna
Jonathan,
do,
for
we're gonna
bringing
go
it
eat,
back
we're
to
gonna come back,
normalcy.
then we're going to come back and
We're going to talk about...
Who are we calling up tonight?
We're going to end this podcast.
Are we
We're
getting
gonna
in your
start another one.
Rolodex?
Yeah, well, we're gonna talk about my piece of legislation that's gotten so many people interested in wanting to call my office late at night and say bad things to me.
look forward to that.
Yeah.
Hey, want to take a moment to thank Pace-O-Matic.
Yes.
Again, thank Jonathan. Thank you.
Shep Moss
We thought for a while that you may be
Yeah.
off the plan.
coming back with a vengeance.
Well, my agent's been working on a few things.
Hey, and you wanna pull on the weed eater one more time? Corey? Why don't you like get us out of this
I'm probably gonna
episode
have to
with
go.
an out?
I'm probably gonna have to go pull the weed eater to crank this boat.
Let's talk. It's bottom of the ninth. The guy's rounding third, coming in. Here comes the throw from left field. It's going to be close. You think it's a close call, but it was a really great throw from left field. And
Was your runner hustling?
catcher.
I mean, was he running full
All right,
out?
here's the call, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Senator Bill Stanley, and I'm leaning right.
Hermie Sadler, and I'm turning left.
And
He's out.
he's out of there. God bless you all. We'll talk to you next time. Way to go, home. Wrong call.